All right, Sean, should we start kicking things off? We got a good bit of people here.
Yep, I was updating the website. That was the last thing I was doing.
Great, okay.
Now it should all be updated. I know that people probably clicked on it and didn't get where they wanted to go, but hopefully they checked back, or at least they left comments and I replied to the comments. So hopefully they.
All right. Okay, Sean, did you want to intro? You want me to?
I guess I can start. It's not going to be a super formal call. There's no PowerPoint or anything like that. It's more of a discussion to chat about, just to get everyone together, and we answer a lot of the same questions often. And we thought it'd be good to hear from actual people who run teams too. So we wanted to invite some of our teams that have been around a while, as well as the new teams that are planning to form. So I'm Sean Moore. I'm the executive director for MiSCA. So I kind of organize the day-to-day operations of the league. And right now we're kind of ramping up the registration to start. But in general, there are things to do every month of the year, and I help to coordinate all of those things. You want to Xandra go next, maybe, Sarah?
Sure. Introduce yourself, Xandra.
Hi, I'm Xandra Inman. I was on staff the last couple of years at MiSCA and am transitioning into the role of race program director.
So Xandra will be 100% focused on racing, as opposed to the broader organization that isn't necessarily all about racing all the time.
And Xandra also coaches with our Orange Crush team, and Kara, who should be joining soon, is also with Orange Crush. Oh, it looks like she's here. I'm Sarah Vano. I'm the registration manager and the race operations manager. And a little bit of why we wanted to have this call is because we want to try to demystify the process of starting a team. And it's in MiSCA's best interest that we have a lot of team options. And the reason is we have teams that are really growing, not just in Southeast Michigan, but all over the state. And what's happening is word is getting out, people want to join a team, and those already established teams are just packed and they cannot accommodate the interests that they have in their area. And so we want to try and make the process a little bit smoother and a little bit more transparent, so that people don't feel as intimidated by the process. And one reason that I'm glad Kara is here right now is because she herself, her husband, and a couple other coaches were kind of thrown into the last minute of separating from one of our really large teams to form Orange Crush. And so they all kind of got their feet put to the fire in terms of having to ramp things up quickly. But you know, we all have some great lessons to learn from starting a team, and yeah, we just kind of want to get together, talk about it. And I think what the issues with our process was there is no one way to have a team. There are so many options that we left the process so vague that I think people were just like, we have no idea what to do. And we're like, neither do we. So that's why we want to try and add a little bit of structure to this process, and knowing where you guys are having trouble, that would also help us support you guys better. So with that intro, it looks like we have a really great selection of locations here. So it looks like we have Southwest Michigan, Lansing, West Branch, Hines, Plymouth area, and we got Midland folks here. They've been around for a few years. We got Kara from Orange Crush. So yeah, so that's my intro. So and yeah, I believe it looks like we have our Toledo area team, or at least represented from there as well. So I see Gino.
Yep. Hi. Great
to see you. So Gino will be representing a team from Ohio. They were racing with the Ohio NICA League. They went to our tree farm race last year, and they're looking to join the MiSCA League potentially. So yeah,
I would say definitely. We're doing it, so
that's awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. So I guess to try and get the discussion rolling, for those of you that are looking to start a team, what is an obstacle that you are currently struggling with that you would like to at least get some clarification on? Or is there, you know, something about the process that seems just really insurmountable that you're not sure how to handle. Does anyone have any comments on that?
I just
I
want to
guess-
invite you guys, if you're in a position where you can't talk and you can text in the chat and ask your questions, we can answer it that way for you too.
I do have a question. How do you go about recruiting if you're in an area where there's no real MiSCA representation and you have like several school districts to draw off of potentially?
So you're saying recruiting kids? Is that kind of the first step that you're thinking of in recruiting?
Yeah, because it needs to be kids to be interested. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would say is, what we found success in is starting with coaches. So if you have a like-minded group of adults who maybe have kids, would be helpful, but if they don't, that's okay too. So if you have like a local, like IMBA chapter of people who ride, or if they're group rides or groups in general, a bike shop team, anything like that, that you can talk to start saying, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing for kids. Is there anybody that'd be interested in helping out? Or you know anybody that has kids that would be interested in doing it? That's usually like the spot that I would start with, is with adults who are willing to give a little bit of time to start the club. And then it's getting the word out to generally through parents to kids. So it might not be kids that already ride bikes, but they might want to try the sport. And a lot of times parents are looking for something to get their kids into. And then that becomes the avenue for them to get started in it. And I think that a lot of times what happens too is that once there's a friend group riding, or a person's on like riding, doing the sport, their friends hear about it, or they get interested through friends. So it becomes a word of mouth thing as well. I wonder if the Midland team would have a good perspective on this, because they have a lot of kids probably from a lot of different schools. And that might be a good example of a team that started from somewhere that has no MiSCA, like they're in Midland, right? They don't really have any races there generally, but it kind of came out of scratch. So Andy, do you want to talk to that a little bit real quick? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I wasn't there the first year when we got started. So that first hurdle I can't speak to, but I've been there for the way our growth has really exploded. And as Sean was alluding to, we pull not just from Midland, because we're a smaller town, all right, but we pull all the way down to St. Charles. We're getting people from Clare, from Mount Pleasant, from Bay City. That whole people are driving an hour or more just to ride with us. And a lot of that did start from word of mouth. The people that were interested in this to be coaches, and getting that kind of contact through the parents. Central Michigan Mountain Biking Association, so working through their board and the active members there played a role. The other thing that played a role recently was just getting posters out into the schools. And we did that through both the City of Midland School District, but then also going to Midland County ESA. And they were able to go and put our posters up in all the schools in in the entire county. And so that helped us pull from the broader audience that we really had available to us. So kind of going to Katie's question, yeah, this is not one school district. We're pulling from the whole thing. And Sean and Sarah, you guys can speak more into the way the non-scholastic groups work. But yeah, so that was, the posters and going to Midland County ESA was definitely a big help in spreading the word even wider. So, and we got a lot of first timers that way last year for sure. So we went from 60 to over 100. So.
And there's some questions and comments in the chat. I'm just going to
there's a comment that says community education is a really good way, like the local community education programs, good way to initiate new riders with low expectations and commitment. The Heartland area is actually using this model right now. They won't have an official MiSCA team, but they are doing a mountain bike program as part of their community education program, even though a lot of their riders are with Huron Valley that are starting it. And the hope is they can kind of start to bring in some kids that are more northwest of, northwest of where the Huron Valley team is. There was a question about, are most teams associated with a school or school district? And if we are starting with mainly the mainly homeschooled group, does that look any different? So we have two different models of teams. We have scholastic and composite. Scholastic teams are associated with the school district and they get scored separately from composite teams. Composite teams can just be anything. There are no school district limitations there. You decide where you want to pull your community from. I will say that when we get the word out that a team is in a certain area, especially in an area where there isn't any existing teams, that interest does kind of start to gravitate. Sean and I do get regular emails saying, hey, I'm in Warren, where can I go? And that's a bit of a dead spot for us. So if we had a place to send them, you know, we get those requests actually pretty often. Flyers and local bike shops, that's a great one. Speaking for Toledo, we use the Trailhead sign kiosk with a poster with a QR code to our webpage and the Facebook pages of trail conditions and maintenance clubs. Yep, so use your local advocacy chapters as a resource there. So yeah.
But I'd say if you're interested in starting a club, there probably will be no shortage of kids to join it once it gets going. In the first year, you can really start small. If you have 2 adults who are gung-ho and are going to do it, you could say, okay, well, we have a spot for 12 kids to do this. And you could focus on a certain age range that you know you could support 12 kids with 2 adults. Like that seems pretty manageable and easy to do. I would say you could probably do 24. And if you could find 4 adults, you can do 24 kids. So starting with the coaches helps to understand too, like what limitations you're going to have with how many kids you can support and how big you can grow. But also, you don't want to be too big in the first year. You probably don't want to have 100 kids showing up and you not having the experience of having done it before. So you can take small bites.
And this actually brings us, so Chris has, you know, his comment is our main issue for our team is getting someone to sign in as a head coach. And Kara, I don't know if you're able to talk, but I kind of want to put you on the spot for that one because I think our team kind of handled that pretty well when I know there was some concerns.
Yeah, we shared the responsibility between 4 of us, 2 couples. So it makes things a lot easier. We just figure out what needs to be done and we each take responsibility for something. Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, so there's a question, curious how coaching generally works. Is there a head coach mainly for communication? Sometimes, yes, there is just a, they'll call it like a team admin, and they're the one that's handling the logistics and the emails and dealing with us and making sure all the logistics are done on our side. We have 4 coaches as of right now, but I wasn't sure what structure has been most helpful for leadership. So as with all things, you know, you kind of look at what people's talents are and what they want to do. And then you can just delegate those things. And of course, having 1 or 2 just point people on your team is really the big part of it. Just because you're head coach doesn't mean you're doing everything. And you know, hopefully you're working with folks that want to help. And so
the title of head coach can be a little bit that could be something that's a little daunting too, because you might not be like, well, I'm not the best mountain biker. I don't want to be the head coach. Like you might think you have to be like an expert cyclist or something like that. And that's not the case. A lot of the head person of a team is more of an administrative task. It could be planning what skills you're going to cover in a practice. It could be communication with parents, putting out a newsletter. There's a lot of things that go into organizing the group or the club. And then having skills coaches, oftentimes those are the people who don't want to do the admin stuff. So they would like to show up. Okay, we're going to cover cornering today. Cool, I know how to do that. I can cover that skill. They don't want to think about it until they get there. And so if you can break that apart into 2 different roles, and you could also have different head coaches for different things too, right? So like if you have different age groups that you're going to be targeting, you might have an elementary team that has a skills coach that focuses on the elementary kids. You could have certain coaches that are good at certain skills and maybe not great at other ones. And that even happened with our coach facilitators this year, where we buddied them up So that way, when they're teaching the other coaches skills, we had kind of like the best representation of who knew that skill best and who could demonstrate it. And maybe one person talks through a skill while the other person does it. At no point does anybody on your team need to be like a great mountain biker. You know, even the ones who are teaching the skills, you can be a level 2 coach or level and be at the basic level skills, and you're teaching those skills.
Yeah, so let me
into-
rewind a little bit, because Sean, you're I don't know if everyone understands the hierarchy of coaching.
Sorry.
So we have, that's okay. We have 3 different levels of coaches right now. Every adult that is riding with the kids needs to be signed on as a level 1 coach. And that just means you are background checked and you took the ride leading online training. That's for safety. It's so that you know how to be on a mountain bike ride with kids and not lose them. So we have a pretty wide swath. We need to make sure everyone understands that. That way that coach isn't someone that the ride leader has to wrangle. Level 2 means that you also have first aid training. We require every group to have someone that's first aid trained in the group. And then a level 3 coach means that you are skills trained. So our curriculum includes how to teach kids mountain bike skills. And we have, you know, at the very basic level, we have essential skills, which applies to your beginner riders to your most advanced riders. They all need to know your essential skills. And we do offer intermediate and advanced skills training if you want to kind of level up and learn a little bit more, especially if you have more advanced riders. So we have, you know, we do have a really great curriculum that we can also bring to your team. So that way we have it so that our entire league is kind of speaking a similar language with how we teach skills. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter, but we at least want the same basic key points out there so that we're all learning how to ride safely and in control. But one thing I wanted to ask, and this is something we were kind of kicking around the other day, we were talking about new teams having like a mentor team. So like pairing you up with a team that's already established, already knows, you know, the drill on how they run things. And either, you know, inviting some coaches to come out to a practice or putting those head coaches together and just kind of just have them be there as like a guide or like someone that would help you. Is that something that people would find value in?
Yeah, possibly, as long as they're not trying to like, I've been thinking about starting for all intents and purposes, a riding club in Hines. And I'm on the Wheels in Motion race team. And I think that ultimately Wheels in Motion likes the idea of kind of merging with us, but I think that they kind of want more of a race team than a riding club. I'm not sure. Chris might know more because he actually works there.
I think they're open to supporting either a club or a race team.
Okay.
So I think they just want more of a plan. And I know I was talking with one of the other people via DM that my reason for our question about the head coach was both Justin and I, our experience was working with John Beeson with the Wheels of Motion MiSCA team, and he put in, and has been putting in a lot of work with that. And I think a lot of us were concerned about the time and everything and the commitment to that. But so we'd have almost a satellite team, I think, is what the idea would be, right, Justin?
Yeah, and like I want to do a riding club, and I haven't really pushed the idea too much because what I'm also trying to avoid is people being like, "Oh, sweet, someone to babysit my kid for 2 hours while I go and do something," because that's not what I want this to be. I want this to be like the kid's actually interested in being there. Like, so I'm trying to be careful about how and where I'm reaching out to people.
So the way that our team kind of gets or tries to avoid that is we have a requirement for elementary kids, and we got this idea from the Brighton team. They did it and we wanted to adopt this. We ask that a parent is on site during practice. And the reason for that is that in case the kid has a meltdown and they're not able to stay with the group, we can at least send them off, because if they're struggling, then the entire group then has to wait. Now, we don't necessarily you know, we don't necessarily want to discourage like having to wait for each other, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes the kid just doesn't want to be there. And we believe that it's in the best interest of the kid to be able to leave. Eventually some of those kids kind of test out of that requirement. But what we found on our team is a lot of those parents are like, well, if I got to be here, I might as well become a coach. So that's kind of what happened. And now we're like, we have a lot of coaches and they've actually brought like valuable coaches.
Yeah, I know a few people on the Greyhounds want to get involved too, which is why I was not like jumping the gun, going right to a Wheels in Motion satellite team, because I didn't want to like alienate anyone on that front where they felt like, you know, they were cheating on their team or something. So that's why I was thinking for now, just a geographic specific team. But I have done some reaching out to other parents at my kids' school, and I'm kind of surprised at the lack of interest. So I am interested that I saw someone posted earlier about, you know, the reaching out for welcome application letters and all that. Is there like a standard form for like a waiver or something that parents have to sign to that we can see?
Sean, do you want to answer that? Sean, you're muted.
Sorry. So when you go through the registration process, all the waivers and background checks, all that stuff happens automatically. Or at least you'll be prompted to do your background check after you register. But the waiver is included in that. You under the resources page of the website, we do have like a printable waiver there. So there is an opportunity that like if you just wanted to do like, so if you were an official team, like registered with MiSCA, you could hold like a try it ride, like, hey, see if you want to join the club, you know, see if it's for you. And you could have people do wet waivers like on site or send it to them and they can fill it out and bring it to the ride. And you could do that without paying MiSCA's annual fee, because that can be a barrier to entry for some families. And they're not sure if their kid's going to like it or not, right? So they can do that for like 1 or 2 practices. And after that, you kind of got to make it official. And that's when, you know, they would have to register through the website.
Okay.
And then all the waivers get taken through
Like
that.
that idea.
I would also encourage
Yeah.
branching out from existing racers to try and recruit. I will say that a lot of the folks that I've seen that wound up really getting involved, you know, aren't already hardcore committed to their own training. And not that we're not riding, but I found that like I've met all kinds of new people and people that are becoming new riders, and you kind of find these corners where this is something people want to be a part of, and it might not be the community that you already are with. So, you know, you might, you know, we can talk about ways to kind of branch out of that, but that was something I noticed. It was like the people that I thought would help me with certain programs, it just never worked out. So that's something that I've noticed.
Yeah, I would say like from our club, we've got a lot of committed coaches, but they're not really racing themselves. It's just something, you know, they go out and ride with kids. It's a different mindset, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, and most coaches are parents too. So like we have a little over 11, we have like 1,200 kids in the league and 550 coaches. So think of that ratio. I don't think you're going to have, generally, we won't have a problem finding coaches. Once you get going, a team generally isn't short on coaches. That ratio is crazy, like 1 to 2 or 2 to 1, 2 riders to every coach, basically. And you need to have 1 to 6, right? Or, you know, 6 riders to 1 coach. That's what we put out there as the requirements for having a safe ride. So yeah, so it's definitely attainable to find the people once things are happening.
And you'll want to front load your coaches and then determine your numbers that you could accommodate from there. And it's okay to set those boundaries early on. You can always get bigger, you can't get smaller. So start conservative, say, hey, we're only accepting X amount of people because this is how much our small group of coaches think we can handle. And then as you grow and if you feel you can take more on, I can guarantee that there will be interest from kids and, as coaches start to come out.
There's
I'd
a
like to
question in
mention,
the chat.
I want
Hey.
to mention one thing on that too. It really helps. What helped our team was to establish a mission statement, and really, MiSCA's is to get more kids on bikes. And for Orange Crush, we decided we wanted to get more families on bikes. So a lot of our rules and our requirements and the things that we do are kind of centered around that. And that helps us to make sure that we don't, just have kids getting dropped off. But it also means that there's going to be kids that aren't going to be as serious about racing and some that are. Now we've got race team right in our team name. So we try to encourage it, but it's not like we're turning people away that aren't, as we want them to at least try racing. Right. So there's other places for them to do that. But I think the question was, are you penalized for it? And we don't. I know that you pay a fee to be a MiSCA team. I don't know how that works for first year teams, et cetera, but really you can be registered with MiSCA, and that covers all your practices and everything. And it's not a requirement to do all the race.
Yeah, racing is never required. It's always optional. The team would in no way be penalized. You don't pay more. The kids don't pay more to be part of the club.
Is anybody eating these nachos?
I want to
was
eat the nachos.
I'd
Oh,
like
sorry.
some.
Did you bring enough for everybody?
I'm so sorry about that.
Share with the class.
There was a question in the chat, just so everybody hears it and for the recording too, but is there a difference between club and team? Because we're talking about those things interchangeably. And I use the two interchangeably. I usually say club/team. When people think team, they think competition. And when people think club, it's for fun. And so I like to use both of them interchangeably because whatever group you create through MiSCA or whatever you're focusing on in that month can be for everybody. So oftentimes you might have beginner riders who it's always going to be a club for them, or for that first year, it might just be, it's just for fun. And you might have ones that are really fast that for them, it's more of a team and they're there for competition, but it's really a mixed bag of what kids are there for. And the other cool thing about requiring parents to ride with kids too, is that if they don't already ride, it's more than general, it's creating a family of riders. And what we found a lot is that kids will bring the parents into the sport, even if it's not a requirement. And that's really cool. It's like a side effect is growing the community of adults who ride as well, not just the kids. And then when the kids need to ride on the weekend, it's not the parents drop them off and they're like waiting in the parking lot like it's soccer. They actually go and ride their bike with their kids. And how cool is that to have a sport that you can actually do with your kids forever? And it's not just, you watch them or you wait around, except for race day. On race day, it's more of a spectator sport, but that's part of
something that I want to just mention about our race series is we have categories that really meet all the kids where they're at. We have novice to advanced categories for elementary, middle school, and high school. And we try and tailor the course and the distance to meet those skill levels. And I will say that it's a really, I'll be honest, in the current environment that we're in, I hate racing my bike, but I would do a MiSCA race because it actually seems fun. I can't, but it's, it just seems like regardless of where you're at, you do have a community of riders among the league that you would be racing with that you would likely be kind of on par with. So.
Yeah, I like to look at the races as like a 5K. Like there a lot of people, most people are there just to finish. There's going to be some people that are going to win the 5K, but in MiSCA, like 80% of the kids are not going to be on the podium. And that's,
and we have advanced
to be
categories. We
expected.
have varsity, we definitely have those kids and, that really are there to get to the next level. And we want to support the whole spectrum, really. And I feel that we've found a pretty good way to balance that. So just something to consider. I know that there's been some hesitation to, okay, well, I'm starting a team, but I don't want to race. And that's fine. You don't have to sign up for the races. But, as your summer goes on and you see how your kids are riding, I mean, just go experience a race, meet some other riders and hang out with the other teams. And it's actually a pretty good time. So.
Yeah, Sarah, I want to come back to that too, because I know I've seen a couple teams form now, and what it tends to be is a handful of parents whose kids also bike, but we can't bike with our own kids on the trail, right? Bad things happen, but when my kids bike with another parent, it's awesome, right? And when their kids bike with me, they might crash and they don't like have a complete meltdown because they don't know what Coach Jason is going to do, right? Or how to handle it, right? They act differently. And then, from there, that just grows and grows because they bring more friends. You've got more adults doing it, et cetera. And I'll say that the icing on the cake is the race season, right? So that's all fun and it's good to have that community and to do it throughout the ride season. But race season is the culmination of all that. And that's when we get together and cheer for each other to race, whether they're really serious about it or not. That's when we, share lunches together, go camping together, do stuff like that. And it's definitely worth taking what you consider to be like a social club or a social riding group and turning it into a MiSCA team for sure. If that's the next step, right? So, and the biggest hurdle to that for me, right? Because I'm just a rider, is like the roster management. So if somebody's worried about being a head coach or doing roster management, well, there's lots of parents that like to do that stuff too. And if they're worried about like organizing, like the race day stuff, there's parents that want to do that. They're all out there. So once you put that out there, like there's more people than you can handle to help out with.
So I have kind of more of a registration question. So I just set up our team, like paid the fee and kind of signed up, I guess, the team. But how long does it take so we can start getting coaches trained up and all that stuff? Is it like, does it go?
So there's a couple ways that we get the coaches training out there, and I'll get into that in a second. But the reason that we have you get the team signed up is so that when our annual registration opens, someone can sign up and boom, your team is in there. And that way we don't have to switch people around a whole lot between independent riders and being on a team. Now, as far as getting your team coaches up to speed on any skills training, there's a couple ways we can do that. We do host some skills clinics throughout the summer through our facilitators that have been trained in our curriculum. And something that I think has been working well is we'll send facilitators out to the teams and to their locations. This kind of helps. It almost kind of feels like a team building event sometimes when we do it that way. And so I kind of like it. I kind of like to go to the team and do that. So, but we do those starting in like late spring, early summer is when we start kicking those off.
And most of the training is not in person. The only training in person is skills training.
Thank you. Yeah.
March 1st is when registration will open for coaches and students. And on that day, those coaches can go register and your team will be there, like Sarah said, so that they're joining your roster. You don't have to let us know that, hey, this person signed up, they should be on my team. There's none of that. They get to pick what team they join right away. Teams have the option to lock that down. You can put a passcode in and then only people that you invite to join your team can join your team. That flexibility is there too. You can make it so only coaches can register for March, and then maybe open student registration in April. Once you know how many coaches you have, then you can set a limit in the system of how many students you'll accept. You can separate it from elementary, middle school to high school. You can put limits on each of those groups if you wanted to. So there's a lot of flexibility in the system. Where I was going at with that was that once a coach registers on March 1st, they'll get a membership page and it'll say, here are the 10 things you need to do to be a level 1 coach. Do you have it or not? And then they can start uploading their first aid CPR certificate into the system to get verified to be a level 2 coach. And they can, on the website, miscabike.org/coach, if somebody could put that in the chat, that would be cool. If you go to that site and you scroll to the bottom, there's a whole bunch of like accordion things of all the things that you need to do, like the different skills and training
Okay.
and requirements, right? If you go there, there's generally a link to do the thing, right? So if it's concussion training, you could go there today and do the training, and then on March 1st, you could submit the requirement. Yeah, I did that this year. It's done, good to go. You don't need to do it again on March 1st, but we do require it every year that we refresh it. The same thing with coaching on the trail. It's a quick PDF to read through, and then you do a quiz. Same thing with the concussion training. In March, we'll do a welcome to MiSCA webinar, and that's what we want coaches to watch that one, because we have changes to the rules and stuff like that that we bring out.
All right, so that opens March 1st. So if I got my team up there today, which I did, everybody will
Saw that.
see it. They'll tie to it. Gorgeous. All right, very good.
Yeah, and so when you go to the miscabike.org/register landing page, there's like different buttons. So it's like you can join as an independent rider or join a team, and that's an option for both coaches and riders. Make sure you pick the right one. And then, yeah, you'll just basically be in the drop-down menu. So
Awesome.
Yeah, and right
Okay,
now you won't be
cool.
there because we haven't activated your team yet. But once we act, what we'll
Yeah.
do is we'll give you access to the team so you can edit like who to contact and add your logo in there. Like you might have done that when you did the registration. Some people do, some people don't. Or
Right,
you might
I
not.
did, yeah.
Yeah, you might not have had a logo yet. You can always change that. Once you're an admin on there, you can change everything. So you can set how much you want to charge, if you want a passcode, you know, all that stuff is in your control, which is really cool with our registration system that we have. It's as if you went to Bike Reg and we're creating your own thing. You can do that, but you're inside of our framework. So that way anybody who joins your team is also joining MiSCA, and we use the same system for race registration too. So all the information is all in one place, which is helpful for parents because they don't have to put their same information in to 3 different places and have to remember where to go to
So
do what and find the receipts and all that.
You
stuff.
guys can facilitate collecting a team fee in addition to the MiSCA registration fee?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
And you
NICA
can
didn't
do
that.
coupon codes, like if you wanted to do if you wanted to waive your team fee for certain people that maybe have a financial need or something like that, you can set a scholarship. You can kind of do in there what you have a lot of control. So
That's a huge upgrade.
yeah, one of our teams, even the Coyotes, for example. So this question about race team versus club too, right? So what they found is they had too many people that wanted to join Coyotes, but they found that a lot of people came early in the year, and then they had their numbers were kind of waning out toward the end of the year, like during the fall. So once kids were back in school, so they found is they had 2 different groups of people, some people that were interested in racing and some people that weren't, right? Same idea that we've been talking about. So they separated their team into 3 sessions. And so they do session 1 is in the like late spring, early summer, and it's like 6-week sessions throughout the year. And they do session 1 is for like, for club. It's about learning skills, building skills for beginners, for sure. Everybody would be welcome in that area. The second session is like the next 6 weeks of summer. And it's kind of a mixed bag of both, what you might want to do. And then in the fall, it's just for racing. So if you're planning on doing a race, you definitely want to join session 3, because that's where we're going to talk about strategy and organizing, who's going to bring stuff to the potluck, and all that stuff that goes into race season is happening in session 3, as opposed to session 1 and 2, which are a little bit more laid back and focused on the club side of things.
yeah, what he's saying is we have a ton of flexibility for how you want to run your program to make put that in our system. So
And if you have an idea, just let us know, and if we can't figure it out, then we have it's kind of a full service system. So we have a direct tie to the guy who will update the system and do stuff for us if we need him to. But yeah, it's super flexible.
I just want to address, there was a question, does MiSCA have any have any sort of scholarship for kids facing financial barriers? So MiSCA does have a financial scholarship for financial assistance application. I put the link in the chat. It's also on our website. If you kind of scroll through in our About tab, it's in there. So that is available in case anyone needs it.
Yeah, and our judgment on that is not to open the floodgates or anything, but we're super open to approving applications. So everybody who applies will get some financial assistance. That's been our guideline forever since we started doing it. And people who apply and answer questions in a certain way will receive 100% financial assistance. So those are like the only two buckets. So it's like, if you apply, we assume that if you went through the effort of doing it, you probably needed it. And like, we're not going to be the judge of that. So you'll definitely get something. And then basically people who qualify for financial or for government assistance, if they're at that level of need, then they will waive their entire program fees, all the races, their annual fee, everything. We don't control the team fees. So if the team does have a fee as well, we leave that up to the team to do that if they want to.
Are there dates and limitations to the like insurance, or I assume there's like an insurance that comes along with this, or requirements that you would have if we have to buy it?
So the annual fee that you pay is what goes towards your insurance, basically. And that's for each individual rider. And as they register, they've signed all the waivers, they've, agreed that they will abide by MiSCA's rules and regulations. And that's, essentially what allows that rider or coach to be part of the already existing insurance policy. Did I explain that right, Sean?
Yep. So our MiSCA's insurance is for members. So when you join MiSCA, you're covered under the insurance for official MiSCA activities. If you're a team and you're creating a team practice or doing a regularly scheduled ride that's part of your MiSCA team, then that is considered a MiSCA activity. And as long as you're following MiSCA's rules, like Sarah said, having enough adults there and having all the adults who are participating need to go through a background check. So as long as you're following the rules, then everything is cool and you're covered under MiSCA's insurance.
Okay.
And we can do additional insured. So like if you say you go to like a certain park, and that park, and I recommend you talk to the park supervisor or whatever they call themselves. Talk to that person and say, hey, we're going to be bringing a group of 50 kids here every Thursday night, from like 4 to 6 or whatever time frame you choose. Get their blessing and let them know, like they'll probably say, oh, maybe you could park your people over here because it gets really busy on this side of the park or whatever. And we have bikes, we can ride to the other side of the park if we need to get to the trailhead, like not a big deal, right? So talk to those people. Those people might be like, ooh, well, what if somebody gets hurt? And if they start talking about that kind of thing, then we can add them onto our insurance policy as an additional insured. It doesn't cost us anything. We do it for the state of Michigan, like the state parks. We do it for other parks, we do it for every bike shop that's a sponsor of our race series. We cover however we need to. So.
Okay.
And our insurance covers, it's similar to NICA's, because I know, you're from going through that process already, but we have a lot of insurance. So we have a general liability policy. We have accidental medical, which means if you get hurt while in a MiSCA activity, MiSCA covers all of your medical expenses as a secondary insurer. So your primary insurance would come in and be like, oh, cool, you got a $6,000 deductible. Let us know when you hit it and we'll pay a couple of cents on it too. Well, MiSCA will come in and pay that first $6,000 for you. And if it's another $20,000 for a collarbone surgery or whatever it is, then your regular insurance would kick in like once your deductible's met. So that's part of the policy. Part of the general liability is abuse and molestation coverage. So if a coach were to get accused of improper behavior, that's actually covered under our insurance, as well as if we were to get sued for that having happened, we're covered under that. I know that a lot of coaches are worried about a litigious society and mountain biking being considered a dangerous sport, even though I would argue it's not up there with football or other sports that a lot of schools have where injuries are pretty common.
Yeah, just NICA was super prescriptive about, okay, this is not. So I as long as we have something and I can kind of know what those rules are, I'm okay. I think we'll be fine. So
yeah, and as far as like,
sorry,
go ahead, Sean.
I say our rules are much more flexible.
So just during a practice, like let's say someone does get hurt, we just assess it as, okay, does the rider or coach need medical attention as a result of this? So then there's, you fill out an incident form and you send it to us, and then we work with you on that claim.
It's actually
Okay.
cool, Sarah. This is a little bit out of the box here, but we're changing insurance companies this year, and so the process is going to change a little. And the cool thing is that now the parents go directly to a website and fill out the form. The form comes to
Right.
us and we approve it or deny it or talk to them about it. And then, so the coaches actually don't have to fill out any forms anymore. It's just 100%
Oh,
parent
that's
driven.
great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Yeah, we
Well,
had
that
a
was fun.
We had a
Talk about
broken
your-
collar, so that wasn't too good.
That's a comment. Was it a coach or a student?
It was a student, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Darn,
had
I was
some
saying
injuries.
coaches are often notorious for injuries just because, you know.
Yeah, that happened to some of the other teams in the Ohio League, but we managed to stay upright so far.
What I've seen at practice, usually kids get hurt before and after practice. So they're doing wheelies in the parking lot, they're trying to show off, they're doing something, they're just tooling around, and that's when they get hurt. It's not usually on the single track where you would normally expect something to happen. So having a good policy on your team of not doing that kind of stuff.
Have a no wheelie zone, establish that boundary.
Yeah, can help to mitigate risk.
I think we have a kid who burps his tire and bends his rim at every practice, so.
I
was
think
gonna
he
say,
rides
like-
for us.
I think there's probably one kid on every team who does that.
Yeah.
Honestly, kind of the first thing I always recommend whenever anybody reaches out to me about like what the first step is, hey, I want to do this. What's my first step? Like, what do I do now that I'm thinking I want to do this? And I know I did this with Justin too, is like, I say start a Facebook group because it gives you somewhere to send people. So I don't know how far along everybody is on the call, but if you're talking to parents and getting people together and you're maybe giving them your email address or your phone number, that could work, but it's harder. You don't have like a database of people to contact, and you might not like write their stuff down when you talk to them. So if you can be like, hey, yeah, search for Black Swamp Riders on Facebook, you'll find our group and join, we'll be communicating there, and they can be part of the build up and what's happening in the planning. And then once things get more official, you have a group of people that you can reach out to, and it's more, you'll have a base to go off of. And then once it's official too, MiSCA can announce it and help get more people involved and interested. We can share flyers and information days, meetings, or whatever you want to do. Because oftentimes there are people that follow us on Facebook or are in our email group that don't have a team in their area, and they might not even ride, or they might be adults, or they were riders and now they live there. And so we can help recruit people to fill in that team as well. Or they might be on a team that's far away, for example, like Midland, right? So if there was a team closer in like Bay City, then maybe they would join the Bay City team instead of Midland, and open up some slots on the Midland team for kids that are more local. There's always room for growth. So
All right, what else you guys got?
Can't think of anything else, Seth. What do you think?
No, I think
Yeah.
you hit all our questions, Gino.
Yeah.
I have a question about website hosting. Since it says like a team should have websites, I did ask in the chat if there was like a MiSCA server that teams could, have like templates or something like that to their webpage. And so they're not. So basically, if we wanted to have a team website, we would have to go and to like, I don't know, like rent space somewhere on a server,
yeah,
like
like,
GoDaddy or something like that. Or
I think like Wix is like $10 a month or something. Like there's really easy website design tools out there. Or even Google has like, I think a free, I think it might be free. I can't remember, but to get like a nice domain where it's like your name at this, might be a little bit more, but in general, you can get it for pretty cheap. I wouldn't say it's a first step that you need to do. I think most of our more established teams have websites. I know like Orange Crush had one right away, but I think they had the skills in their coaching staff. That is probably why it happened so quickly.
We also tacked it onto the shop's website, so that was part of it. But Tim eventually made a separate one.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say
That's
it's a
another thing.
requirement by any means to have a website, and the MiSCA registration site will accomplish some of that. You know, how to contact the team, where are they located, like on your registration page for your team can have a lot of information. It doesn't have to just be, yeah, click here to register. It's usually a lot about what the dates are and maybe where you're going to meet throughout the year, and maybe the format of the team and who the contacts are, and you can have email addresses and phone numbers on there. So a lot of the information you would have on a website can be on MiSCA's registration page pretty easily.
And if you
we
want
have-
some inspiration, if you really wanted to make a team website, like the West Michigan Coyotes website is like the team site of like my dreams. It's incredible. So it's very good if you want to look at that.
And that's the thing, like Brian Miller is a web designer. So like that's why he did that for his team.
Yeah, they just happen to have the resources, but it doesn't need to be, it's not like Sean said, it's not a requirement.
Yeah. And Rochester has a pretty good site too, but it's mostly informational, right? It's like people aren't logging in there. There might be a calendar of where the rides are going to be at, or like what events might be coming up for that club or team. But it's just a way to get more information out there to the masses who might not have Facebook either, because I know a lot of people don't have Facebook.
Yeah, I'll mention that another decision to make with that for each team. So we've decided not to publish where we're going to be on different nights, just for like, just to keep kids safe kind of thing. So people don't know that there's going to, that we're going to be there. We do all of that communication through Team Snap. I know that, some other teams have experimented with Band. I think Sports Sign Up still has that capability. So we pay for an up-level service through Team Snap that lets us do all of our team chat and calendars, and most importantly, our RSVPs. So once your team gets to a certain size, you really want to know which coaches and kids are going to be there to help you put together, proper ride groups, etc. But again, that's all personal, up to the team. And that's kind of like how you manage it based on how big you are.
Yeah, I know some folks, they wish that they would have a heads up if teams are going to be there, because yeah, when a team is there, it kind of can disrupt the experience on the trail. But like Jason said, it's a little sketchy putting it on Facebook that, hey, we got a bunch of kids on this trail, and I don't really want that out there personally, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do, I think we can accomplish it in Workplace. This is another thing, but like, so Workplace isn't public. It's like a closed system of MiSCA people. It's like 100 people on there, like 50 coaches, and then they're like, well, probably mostly coaches, but then the staff and board and stuff like that is there too. Anyways, but we need a calendar that says, okay, what teams are going to be at what trails on what days, so that we try to limit the overlap of the same, especially around race season. People will pre-ride the same trail and they all practice on the same night of the week. So it's like Tuesday at Milford Trail, have Brighton, Huron Valley, and Orange Crush all show up before the race. And then it's like way too many people on that trail. So it'd be more of an internal calendar that we would have, so that the teams know what teams are going to be where, so that they can schedule accordingly, but it wouldn't be a public thing. And some of the teams are more public about when their activities are going to be than others. It's just again, a team choice. MiSCA doesn't require it. We don't publish a calendar online that's public or anything like that. Andy mentioned Discord. He's trialing that. I know Brighton uses Slack as their team communication thing. It's whatever you want to do. It looks like CCN which is our registration system, is going to integrate with it was Team Snap, right, Sarah?
Team Snap, yeah.
It looks like they're going to integrate with Team Snap, which might help. If you use that, it might be easier to get your people into that system from registration system. Otherwise, it's like you have to email them a link to join the team. But if they want to know what's going on, they'll probably do it.
So there's a question, is there a specific age group people have found to be a good one to start with, or is it really just trial and error based upon the interested coaches' connections? So it depends on your community and what you already have. We do have some teams that are high school only, elementary only, or everything. So I think it just depends on the ages that your coaches are comfortable working with. Some people find certain age groups challenging. I know this is a very vague answer, but these are just things to consider when you're deciding on that age group. So let's say you want to start, okay, we just want middle school and high school to start. Great. Next thing you know, there's going to be siblings, and then they're going to ask to come. And then all of a sudden, yeah, that kind of broadens the scope a little bit. So I would say start where you're comfortable and expand once the siblings will inevitably want to ride too. We have the Southwest Michigan Thundercats. They are an elementary only team. So
And then they're expanding the middle school this year because somebody grew from 5th grade to 6th grade and they don't have another team. So, and it was the head coach's kid. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, now we're doing middle school. And same idea. They wanted to start small, focused on a certain group that they know they could serve and then do it well. And then now they're growing as the team is organically growing, they're growing into it. And that's what I've seen happen with other teams too. That so Brighton, I think it was a high school only team. And Northville, same thing, high school only. And then they grew into middle school because middle school feeds the high school. And so it's kind of natural. And same as Sarah said, they're siblings. So it's like, well, it just makes sense. Let them join the team. And then it kind of, again, it organically kind of goes down to have elementary. And then with Brighton, they don't do like kindergarten and 1st grade. I think they start at 3rd grade for their elementary team. They might have changed things, but I don't remember. But if you're elementary, then you have to have a parent ride with you, or we have to have a parent as a coach. Maybe they don't ride with the kid because we don't necessarily recommend the parents get grouped up with their kids all the time to what Jason mentioned earlier. Kids generally do better with not their parents. But yeah, it depends on who you got. I would say elementary is great because if you get a kid in elementary, they're going to be on your team for 10 years. And if you get a kid in high school, the most they'll be on your team is for 4 years. Elementary parents seem to be more active in kids or youth activities than high school parents. So you think like high school parents, that they're a school-based club or team, and there's not a whole lot that they have to do with that. It's after school, their kids can drive maybe even, and so they're not as involved in the after school program. But in elementary, they have to drive them there every time. They're used to paying for after school programs. They're kind of used to that. They're already in that environment. So it might be a little bit, we're kind of like similar to like a little league or something like that, where, similar model as opposed to a school-based team, which is still possible.
And the growth of our elementary programming is just insane. Like we keep having to expand categories just to fit everyone on the trail at the same time. So they'll be in good company.
I think we have more elementary categories now than any other.
Than anything else.
Yeah.
We even have advanced elementary in case you got a kid that's real fast.
Yeah, it used to be, so MiSCA when we started, we were just high school, and then we added middle school, and then we added elementary. So we, much like a lot of the teams that evolved from where we thought we would be into what we are today. And then now elementary is our, I'm not going to say it, they might be they're one of our biggest age groups or one of our biggest brackets. There's like 6 grades in elementary, so it's different than like high school that has 4 and middle school only has 3 grades. So, it's stretched out a bit more. But as an age group, they're bigger than middle school, and I think they're almost the same as high school as far as MiSCA goes. But when we started, elementary was 10 and under mixed, so boys and girls in the same category. We had 10 kids in it, and then it grew. We split boys and girls into separate groups, and then it grew, and we split it to lower and upper elementary, and then it grew, and we added advanced elementary, and then it grew.
We have 10 elementary categories now.
Yeah, it's just
Wow.
we adapt as we get more kids. So.
We are also the only league in the country, I think, that has elementary programming. When Sean and I went to, we jokingly call it the outlaw leagues. It's basically the leagues that have either left NICA or just were always independent from NICA. We got together back in December, just kind of go over best practices and stuff. And them hearing about our elementary programming was just so crazy to them, but we hope that we will inspire them to do it too, because it's a lot of fun. That's kind of a tangent, but
Mhm.
Well, that was a big attraction for us to join this too. In addition to proximity, there's a lot of younger siblings that show up for the weekend and didn't get to do anything. So nice to get
Yeah,
them
and following the
on a
rules of like everybody who rides has to be a member. And if your group, if NICA will not let elementary kids be members, not even not let them race, but won't even let them be members, then they can't ride
right.
with the club, right? And it's kind of a gray area if you let them, if they're on the trail at the same time as you're on the trail, and they would need a parent with them, and that parent's probably riding with the bigger kids, and then you lose
Yep.
coaches because you can't leave a kid alone. So now that parent can't coach with the team because their kid isn't riding. You can't leave the kid alone.
Yeah, no, it's a big attraction for us. So it's good.
yeah, I will say moving forward, we are looking to kind of bring a better structure to how we introduce new teams. And so as you guys are struggling with anything or just you're hung up on something, we are trying to find ways to improve that for everyone. So just, we will try to get that rolling out as best we can. But if there's stuff that we can be doing that is going to support you better, then we need to know that. And because like I said in the beginning, it is in our best interest that we have more teams. So we want to make this happen.
If there's anybody on the call that has not reached out to myself or Sarah, definitely email us and we can get you, there's a document. Oh, I think probably what Xandra posted is is that like the 20-page thing, Xandra, that one? Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's mental loading. Okay, cool. It's under construction. Yeah.
9 pages. 9
sorry.
pages.
Arial narrow. That's our font of choice. Anyways, Sarah created like a one sheet double-sided that has like more bullet points than paragraphs. The one that Xandra put in here is good because it gives you different roles of what parents could do on the team. You can have a team photographer, someone who's in charge of planning snacks, and someone else who's communications, and someone else who does whatever. Did I say photographer already? Skills. Like different people are going to have different roles, and kids can have those roles too. So not every kid's going to want to race. So during the race time, maybe they're like the team manager. Maybe they help in the pits and they work on bikes because they're more mechanical. There's a bunch of stuff that people can do to participate still. That doesn't mean you have to want to be competitive. But once kids go to the races, they usually want to participate because they'll find that it's not aggressive. I don't know how to better word it, but like, yeah, people win, but the atmosphere is not such that it's like the sportsmanship is great and everybody cheers for everybody. And it's just really cool to be part of it.
It's like not downstate Michigan XC.
No.
It's the opposite, which is why I like it.
I've never been. So so that's one thing too, like a lot of people do say like MiSCA's a race league, like, oh, you guys do racing, right? I'm like, I've never done a mountain bike race and I'm running the league. Like, I don't know.
We have a whole spectrum of
I don't consider it to be a
staff,
race.
coaches. Yeah, we're all over the place, and that's a good thing, right? And even like I run a little Bellis program around here. I actually want my mentors to be across the spectrum of skills because I want the girls to have someone that they can identify with if they're an advanced rider or just starting out. So we just want people riding bikes and doing what works best for them and developing themselves as people. So
Well, I got to jump off. Thank you guys very much. That was helpful.
Thanks, Gino.
And we'll see you out there soon.
Awesome. We're
we'll
excited.
be in touch soon, I'm sure.
You're our third state now. So now we have Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And I just got word Windsor. It won't be a new team, won't be a team, I don't think, but it'll be at least a family moving from Toronto to Windsor that wants to participate. So it'll be our first international riders.
That's amazing.
It's cool. I don't know if they could join. I don't know if they could start a team or not. I have to talk to like the insurance.
Okay. Well, we're at over an hour. We could keep going if people have more questions, comments, concerns, but otherwise we'd also like to let people get back to their evenings and their families. So after the Gordie Howe Bridge opens up, they can bike over too. I love that.
Are they putting a
Yeah,
bike
you
lane
can
in?
call the final race the International Championship.
Yes.
We have to have a Canadian flag now when we do the national anthem at races.
Oh boy.
I am gonna run with this. I want them to feel welcome.
Well,
Do we have concessions? Do we have to serve poutine?
If you want, I'm not gonna stop you. So, yeah, okay. On that note, let's wrap this up. Again, just keep in touch with us. We'll reach out to some, I believe everyone on here we've already been either talking to or has reached out to us. I also want to thank Jason and Kara and Andy for providing their insight with their experience. It's always really helpful. So appreciate your time.
Yeah, and like Sarah said, we have a lot of coaches that will help us as mentors, even if they're not in your area, just to be a sounding board to like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What would you recommend, or what would you do? We have a good pool of people to pull from. So if you ask us a question and it's more of like a experiential thing, we can forward it on to our network. Also, if you go on to miscabike.org/teams, Xander put that in the chat as well. There is a spreadsheet there where you can get the contact info from the head coach from every team. So if you want to email the head coach from Brighton and be like, hey, how did you guys start a Scholastic team? I'm struggling to like get me ground here. You can talk to them about it and see what their experience was. Spoiler alert, the principal is a mountain biker. Helps. But we can connect you with the other teams in the area, or you can email them direct. There's also a map on there, and if you click on the map, you'll get the same contact info as well.
People are pretty willing to help. So
yeah, nobody wants you to make the same mistakes they made, so they're definitely willing to share.
there's some pain.
Right. Well, cool. Yeah, send us an email if you have any questions. I just put registration@miscabike.org on there, so that way me and Sarah both get it, and then we can both be on the chat. Yeah, thank you guys for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can help.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.